The Rookie Season 8 Episode 14 review offers a ton of dash and a bit of Celina growth. Going on side missions is the rookie's favorite activity. In the Rookie Season 8 Episode 14, Celina's fervent pursuit of missing persons cases was interspersed with Nolan's involvement in another case due to dash. And some of that was fairly successful. The traditional humor of the Rookie was particularly evident in the first few minutes of the hour. It was entertaining to watch Bradford get so excited about his beautiful new truck with all the technology, and it was amusing that he was waiting in the passenger seat as Nolan and Lucy kicked ass after two guys without shirts squared off in the middle of the road. The slide with the bleeding face was very funny. I have to give Nolan credit for his outstanding performance this season. Lucy has also been involved in numerous fights. Lucy, the tiny little badass, never fails to hold her own. In terms of escalating the enjoyment, those were the kinds of things that seemed like a standard episode of The Rookie. Then, after learning that his teacher had passed away, Dash called with this strange case and got into some high school chaos that brought out the best in Lucy. She delivered a flawless monologue in which she dissects all the scandalous rumors she learned from the teenagers. She must have known just how to get all the tea spilled from a group of youngsters before. For the most part, the case seemed like something they had to do in order to give us the length of time we were given to watch Angela and Harper. Even though I adore my favorite police officers, it would have been great if they had additional activities. This season, The Rookie seems to be unsure on how to handle the majority of its characters. Nyla hasn't done much, unless it has to do with Glasser. Additionally, since the DA plot mostly took place off-screen and didn't really progress, they really haven't given Angela anything to work with. Once more, Miles was MIA and Gray has been in this strange position of always attempting to include him into the plot, even if they don't have the best reason for his existence. We jumped straight into everything with Dash, skipping the murder investigation that would have focused more on Harper and Lopez. I must admit that I prefer Dash over Raj when it comes to showrunner Holly's kids appearing in the series. Dash's bond with Nolan is charming, and I didn't mind him for the remainder of this hour. It's obvious that Nolan recognizes some of himself in Dash, and he has developed a strong affection for the youngster and wants to watch out for him. Dash's parents mistreated him, particularly his father Gus, who turned out to be a loser as a result. Dash's relationship with Nolan is not inherently flawed. It's quite touching and a fantastic opportunity for Nolan to get to know someone on a deeper level without being limited to Bailey. The way they haphazardly include Dash in stories is absolutely strange. The child is most likely the unluckiest person ever. And this season, I can't even begin to count how many times he's just sitting at the police station. When it was obvious that Dash didn't want anything to do with his father, it was unexpected that Nolan didn't think of a reason why he couldn't accompany him. Nolan was disappointed. Gus was awful. He didn't remember any of the traumas he had or the details of Dash discovering his teacher dead. Gus was preoccupied with his next venture and the people he owed money to. Ironically, by emphasizing that Nolan listens to Dash, they effectively convey how he is a father figure, the dad who stepped up. Nolan deduced that Dash would bring the crooks who were about to assassinate his father to Reese's home. It was quite fun after that. Reese was impressed by Dash. Without Gus's help, everyone survived and the criminals were taken into custody after they comically discovered that they really don't want to look into your parents' nightstand drawer. Gus acknowledged that he is a terrible father and guilty, but not enough for me to care or for it to matter. And for his own sake, I'm happy that Nolan essentially instructed him to leave Dash alone. Additionally, there is a happy conclusion to this surprise Dash-centric. I've been wondering what will happen to Celina's career in the interim since she finally got a glimpse of a fantastic plot. Since she is no longer a rookie, we haven't really had room to follow her next steps. Celina's decision to enter missing persons makes sense, and it was remarkable how determined she was to disprove the prickly guy she was paired with. It was pleasant to return to her own experience of her sister disappearing. Unfortunately, the series didn't really build up to it well enough, give it enough breathing room, or lean into it sufficiently. It was shocking that Celina was able to get Smitty to assist her in her hunt for someone, who turned out not to be missing. If he's willing to work for once, he truly does have a soft spot for her. However, it was her investigation into the disappearance of a woman named Apple that provided the true drama and excitement. Bless her heart, when it came to Apple's roommate, her spidey instincts weren't alert enough. The girl continued to use the past tense as though she already knew Apple was dead, was reluctant to let Celina in, and made mistakes by mentioning how much Apple annoyed and disturbed her. Celina then committed the grave error of betraying this already suspicious woman. It was obvious that Apple's roommate had killed her when she discovered the tooth beneath the bed. She was also insane enough to attempt Celina's murder. It was crazy to blind her and then attack her with a hammer. Have you noticed the way she was swinging that? Oh my! Celina went there by herself without telling anyone, which was a stupid choice. It's horrifying to consider what may have occurred if she hadn't been able to stop the Amazonian woman who was approaching her with a hammer. However, I hope we see more of her handling missing persons cases because she is persistent and unrelenting. Celina dealing with missing individuals. Since Celina works in the missing persons department, I was curious to see how she handled the situation because her sister had also gone missing. I wanted to see this plot treated more seriously because, as the program demonstrated, missing person cases are not given much consideration or attention in real life. When Celina arrived with the intention of changing things, she was greeted by Detective Desmond, who had no interest in reviewing cases. The number of missing person cases that turn into cold cases or, worse, the fact that he doesn't put in as much effort when a new case comes in are clear signs that this job has affected him. Celina is motivated to disprove him after noticing this about him. It would have been simple to quit up when a case she worked a little too hard on turned out to be nothing, but she persisted. I will now state that Celina ought to have contacted for assistance before investigating a case on her own. Celina decided it wouldn't hurt to investigate a missing person case involving a girl who resided in her building and went missing during Coachella. When she knocks on her apartment door, her roommate answers. This roommate seemed really dubious. Celina must have let her guard down in an attempt to close this case because something should have gone wrong when the roommate began speaking in the past tense before swiftly correcting herself. Celina was in danger since it was too late. Knowing that Celina had discovered her and that her disguise had been blown, the roommate attacked her. It could have gone badly, but fortunately Celina held her own. Detective Desmond's emotional reaction upon seeing Celina again is the reason I thought there could have been more to this plot. His rage felt more like concern, though it was faint. This led me to believe that he is similar to Celina in that he wants to work harder to locate missing persons, but he has become desensitized due to the ongoing disappointment. I hope he and Celina collaborate once again. Would you like to see a dead body? Well, no. Unless you are enrolled in Dash's course. Naturally, Dash calls John Nolan, the only police officer he is connected to, as soon as he finds a dead body that he learned about in school. We learn that the deceased man teaches at the esteemed school Dash attends, and all of the pupils who discussed the corpse were hauled in. This episode seemed like a fever dream to me since I was so cut off from the plot. Dash's father kidnapped him and Dash because they owed people money. The story began with an irate parent who was frustrated because paying for grades didn't get their daughter into an Ivy League school. It was a plot inside a plot. Although Dash is a caustic youngster, I find it difficult to accept that he would endanger himself in the manner that he did. Any typical child would be scared. His father was being threatened by armed men in his house, and you're telling me that he was able to calmly emerge from the closet he was hiding in? To divert their attention and entice them to one of his wealthy classmates' houses? Uncertain. When he arrived at this classmate's house, he discovered that Autumn, the girl he was crushing on, lived there. Now that she was at home, she was also a hostage. One of the thieves chooses to duct tape Dash and Autumn's hands together, giving the impression that they are bound together. It's adorable. When Tim and John finally arrive, everything is okay, but this case had a lot of potential. Introducing Dash's father as a deadbeat was a decision. Without a doubt, this wasn't my fave. Evers and Del Monte. I enjoy it. I hope we see more of these two. Wesley knew he intended to leave after Vivian was elected DA. It was wonderful to see that Wesley maintained that aspect of himself despite working with the enemy, because Vivian embodies everything he opposed about becoming an ADA. Fixing the system from within was always his aim. When Del Monte learned that working with Vivian would be challenging, he requested Wesley to work one shift with her to determine whether leaving would be worthwhile. As it happens, it was. Del Monte and Wesley were fired after Vivian revealed her actual nature during their most recent shift. The collaboration between Del Monte and Wesley caught me off guard. Del Monte wasn't as receptive to Wesley's style of operation when he first came, so it's encouraging to see them come together in this way. I sincerely hope they create a business together. Please don't let this be an idea that this show presents but never follows up on. In order to ride around as watch commander in elegance, Tim Bradford, Eric Winter, has upgraded one of the businesses. However, the show does something that makes it possible to release a fantastic episode. It genuinely showcases one of its best characters. The Rookie still soars when it returns to its core, despite the fact that the episode also revisits a plot involving an old character, which has been happening in almost every episode this season. The Rookie highlights Celina's outstanding police work. A detective assigns Celina Juarez, Liseth Chavez, to work as a temporary employee. Everyone challenges her decision when she selects missing persons. Carlos Gomez's character, Detective Hernandez, is well known for being a gloomy, depressed person who isn't really committed to solving cases anymore. He calmly informs Celina that she won't actually be locking up criminals when she tries to get to know him and find out what her responsibilities will be. In actuality, instances involving missing persons are frequently resolved because the people in question aren't truly missing. Because she is motivated by her own sister's case from years ago, Celina continues to see the world through rose-colored glasses and believes she can make a difference here. After Celina pulls other police officers into the city tunnels in search of the missing woman, she discovers that the woman has actually checked back into a shelter and is doing well. Despite the fact that this case was a failure, Lucy Chen, Melissa O'Neill, encourages Celina that she shouldn't give up on her senses. Celina soon discovers another missing person case that had special meaning for her. Apple, who happened to reside in Celina's building, vanished 30 days ago after going to Coachella. After returning home, Celina knocks on Apple's apartment door against Hernandez's advice to give up. Celina is given permission to enter and take a look around by Apple's roommate, Kiera Barnes. The roommate immediately begins enumerating all the reasons why living with Apple was challenging. However, Celina doesn't realize she's in danger until she looks beneath Apple's bed and finds something will haunt her nightmares for weeks. The roommate pursues Celina around the apartment with a hammer and maces her before she even realizes she's clutching a tooth. The woman yells that Apple was the worst roommate ever, as Celina finally manages to restrain her and handcuff her. Hernandez is upset with Celina back at the station for endangering herself and disobeying protocol, but Celina maintains that she is undaunted in her efforts to assist victims. Maybe she has motivated Hernandez to investigate more cases in the future. This plot demonstrates that Celina, who has the greatest heart and commitment to her work, is one of the Rookie's strongest characters. A teen-focused investigation is shown in The Rookie, Season 8, Episode 14. This week's secondary plot centers on Dash's, Beckett Hawley, reappearance and John Nolan, Nathan Fillion. He reports that he is standing in front of a dead body by calling Nolan. Kenneth Morris, an English teacher at Dash's school, is revealed to be the victim. Many kids are interviewed, and Dash mentions Autumn Harrington, a wealthy girl, as his current crush. He won't get any attention from this stereotypically cruel girl. Lucy investigates who first discovered the body in some amazing Gen Z police work, and it turns out to be a teenager called Reese. She finally admits that when Morris tutoring failed to get Reese admitted to Yale, her mother grew furious. Dash's plot continues even after the mother is taken into custody for his murder. When Dash's father arrives to take him home, he ends up going to his own place instead. Rather than just being a good father, Dash's father is obviously a loser who devises plans to get rich quickly.